One. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Anime Relatable. We are back with another Friday interview, and I'm excited for our guest that we have on today. I've been recently looking at his work, and I think it's really really dope, right? And I think what I love about it is that it's very very black focused, and he's wanting to elevate the artists, the black artists, in order to get their work out to people. Because like honestly, we have some really dope people in the anime manga space. So who I have for you guys today is he's dope, and I think words can't express how dope he actually is. And I just met him like 5 minutes ago, so I want you guys to meet Lee, and I'm excited for you guys to get to know him. So bro, introduce yourself to the people. Let's just start with your backstory. Where are you from? What do you do? Like, yeah, let's just start there.
Greetings, people. I'm Lee Juaso. I was born in Atlanta. I lived a lot of places, got to travel to a lot of cool places. We've been to Philly and Guatemala and Spain and all that good stuff. And along the way, I was really into art because it's when you travel a lot, identity is very malleable, and it can be tricky sometimes to like get in with people who have known each other their entire lives. But if you have a talent, be it like playing basketball or like being funny or singing or whatever, those are oftentimes you're in social situations if you don't feel like making incredibly strong social connections with people with small talk. And luckily, my in was in drawing. I've always been the person that drew. And when I ended up going to a really nice private high school where I was like generally one of the few black children in the classroom, I drew to maintain my sanity. I had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, and I would be driven to my uncle's house at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I would sleep, and he would drive miles, like 10 miles away to get to his job. And on the way to his job, which is near where I went to school, he would drop me off at school. I would be dropped off at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would sleep, wake up at 8 o'clock, and then go to school at 8:30 in the morning, so that I could get the day started. So those were not the most fun times of life. And in order to get through that, I drew profusely. And the beautiful thing about well-financed private educational institutions is that their facilities are immaculate. And they had this beautiful art studio. And when I learned I could just come into the art studio every morning, instead of going to sleep when I got to school, I would just go down there and make art. I had a really cool teacher named Mr. Fox, and he helped me learn how to explore different styles of art and how to grow outside of anime, but also gain appreciation for like classical portraiture and anatomy and figure drawing and all that fun stuff. So I got out of there, and over the course of being at the school, I'd started using social media and getting involved with the art communities there and stuff. And I found that a lot of artists did not, there might be a little bit of background noise. A lot of the artists had print shops. They had print shops, they accept commissions, but they wouldn't really have that many sources of passive income, unfortunately. And so in order to get around those sources of passive income, I made my website where artists could come on and sell their stuff. And now we're at a point where we have raised hundreds of thousands of, well, no, not hundreds of thousands, $800,000 towards getting black artists to be able to show their work to the people and stuff, have relationships with a bunch of influencers, and have learned all this fancy digital marketing stuff. And now we're putting it forward to be able to take their stuff to conventions and get them into different spaces that otherwise were closed to us.
I did. Okay, there we go. A lot I want to get into. You said private school, right? You got into drawing in that way. You had a fantastic teacher, which is amazing because having people from that age and inspires you. It goes a long way, right? Teachers, you are appreciated. You don't get paid enough. You probably should get paid a little bit more. Private school teachers get paid a little bit better than public school, but I think it's cool that since you found this passion, right? Of just waking up early at 5 a.m. and being like, hey, how am I going to get through this waking up early, and you start drawing, right? So I just want to start what was it? What was it like for you being at that private school, right? And yeah, and you said you were the only one of the only few Black kids there, which is very relatable. What was that experience for you? And yeah.
It, in hindsight, wasn't that bad. At the time, I was going. At the time, my perception caused me to feel as if I was in a much worse predicament than I actually was. And looking back on it, I made my time there harder by not accepting a lot of the blessings that were around me. So, one of the major things was that of the Black people that were there, I distanced myself from them because I did not feel that they would understand me because I was a nerd. And 3 years later, I found out the vast majority of them are nerds because you kind of have to be a nerd to get into that kind of institution without paying. And I also didn't take advantage of, because I was raised to be a very, I became very militantly Afrocentric, and that stopped me from connecting to a lot of our less melanated counterparts, which was also stupid. Because when you're in a place where the people that are going to be running the world are sending their children, it's kind of smart to have good connections to the people who are going to be running the world. And there's so many activities they had, and there's so many events they had, and it's literally made by the people that run the world. That is where they send their children. We had freaking, like, we had so many people from incredibly high positions in the society just coming to our school, trying to appeal to us, planting that seed. We had people from the Peace Corps, from the Mural Arts Program, which is the country's largest mural program. It's based in Philadelphia, and they're the reason why there's murals all over. When you look at Creed and you see murals all over the place, that's them. The art museum, just so many amazing things that were connected to that school. And I was just being a stupid little emo kid, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to let these white people change me. I'm going to use their resources and get good at art and bring it back to the people. And I was so dumb. It's very short-sighted of, even like I left college, I was in college for a year. I'm not going to go to college because the people here suck. I'm going to just go and make money by myself, and then I'm going to be better than everybody. You know, it's just terrible, terrible, egotistic, short-sighted time. And so yeah, if I could do it again, so much that would have changed. But in terms of like being the only Black kid and stuff, or being one of the few Black kids, it taught me that the world is not as bad as I was trained to believe that it was. There are white people running around with pitchforks that want to chop my head off and hang me, but most of them are not going to the best private school in the freaking country. And if they are, they're going to keep their motivations very hidden. And so, yeah, I was just unnecessarily paranoid and got in the way of a lot of blessings, unfortunately. But some of the best things that happened there were I was able to learn Spanish, was able to get really good at art, was able to learn photography, was able to do stuff with computers that you wouldn't ever be able to do. I got to be in position to like learn from the beautiful thing about that school in particular was that because the teachers are not being paid minimum wage by the state, they actually care about teaching children. And if you they actually care about what they're teaching as well. So you can talk to your history teacher about some crazy history stuff because your history teacher actually like history. They aren't just shoved an agenda to give you. All the teachers actually liked what they were teaching about, and you could have high level conversations with them about things because they know what they're talking about because they're teaching it. So being in that environment showed me that when it's your job to care about something and you care about it, you want to talk about it. And if you can talk to someone about something they actually care about, you'll learn way more than just listening to them tell you what they were paid to teach you, like was my previous experience going to a medium quality public school before that.
Sheesh. Oh, yo, that, yo, I honestly, bro, I enjoy your take, right? Because I think a lot of people, I don't say a lot of people. I think I see a lot of people on social media that are like this, that are very, I think there's nothing wrong with being very with being pro-black. I think it's fine, right? I think like for what our people have experienced throughout the years, throughout the centuries. I think like it's okay to elevate your brother and sister, a little bit. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think there's a negative extreme, right, where you do have to like, hey, we need to separate ourselves from these people because they did A, B, and C. And yes, A, B, and C maybe is bad, and yes, it is bad, right? And I think like definitely they should be held accountable for it. But it's like, do we do ourselves any favors if we try to separate ourselves from these people, right? Because I mean that's a whole different take, but this interview is not about that, right? So, but I appreciate that. Right? So, right? So, within this backstory, you said you had to pretty much with the few black kids that were in your school, you had to be pushed into sort of the black nerd culture. So starting here, like, what made you? You said you were drawing in that time frame. What made you want to get into drawing, comics, manga, whatever you prefer to call it?
When I was in my medium quality charter school, there were the athletic children, the fake thugs, because luckily there weren't any real thugs, and then the nerds. And I was in the nerds. And as a part of the nerds, we used to sit at the lunch table, we draw characters. Kids was drawing they Sonic OCs. I ain't ever drawn no Sonic OCs, but they was drawing the mess up out their Sonic OCs. Kids was drawing their own original characters. And I would draw. I was like one of the people that would finish the work really fast. So after I finished my work in class, I'd write this comic where it was like me and my friend group fighting the Boondocks. And as time went on, the stories just got more elaborate. Initially, it was just like me fighting Huey, and then it became like, what happens if these characters keep going on past the fights, and what's happening outside of the context of the fights. And then there were like power scaling and global cataclysms and stuff that happened, and I was able to play with that seed with learning how to like tell stories and long form stories, and play with keeping characters consistent over the course of time and building up characters as my friend group grew as well. And the comics also came from that group of people putting me onto anime and manga. But they cheated though, because they wasn't like, yeah, you ever heard of Naruto? Naruto's fire. They was like, hey, we just saw boobs on TV, and I was like, how? And then
hey, yo.
anime. I was like, what? And it was like, yeah, fam, check out this show. And so like I went back home, and like I used to like lay down, like I used to like sleep in the top of my closet. So I like went up to the top of my closet because I weighed like 80 pounds when I was like 13.
That's a dope sleeping spot though. I'm not gonna lie.
it was like a little nest. I put a whole bunch of sheets up there. I used to just like read comics and like sleep. It was a good time, but I can't do that now. But and I watched Mad Ninja Warrior, so I used to climb stuff a lot. But yeah, so I went up to my closet, and I closed it off so that nobody could see that the light was coming from there. And I watched this show called Heaven's Lost Property, and then I just watched Ecchi for like 6 months later, and I was like, yes, I'm bought in. This anime is great. It has boobs. It's funny. Has philosophy. I'm with it. And then later on, right, I watched other stuff like Kenichi and Full Metal Alchemist and Naruto, and got really into like the culture of anime and stuff. So the thing and I always was reading comic books, but the thing that I liked about manga that I didn't find in comics was, number one, it was generally focused around teenagers. And like the X-Men are teenagers, but the X-Men is a very melodramatic story. It's like there's always the end of the world. The stakes are really big. And then the characters that do exist, the relationships they have aren't based in them being people. They're based in them being mutants. And there's always a big divide between humans and mutants. Whereas in anime, you're a person. You're just a person that has a whole bunch of interesting things happen in your life. And if you want to keep that away from people, most times in anime, it's normal to be exceptional. Whereas I feel there's just different levels of exceptional. Whereas I feel like in comic books, there's the exceptional people and the normal people, and the two worlds very rarely interact, and when they do, it's a disaster. And I really like that about manga and anime. And then as I started like getting into drawing and writing anime, I found how many different types of stories are. And that's kind of gone on where I was on shonen for like 5, 6, 7 years, and now I'm into slice of life a lot, and like romance, like soft like romance stories where they will tell a story about something I could not care about at all. The first one was Bakuman. It's about making manga. I was like, yes, I'm in. But now it's like there's one called Kaguya-sama, which is about the smart man and smart girl that like each other, but like love is war. So whoever admits that they're in love first loses. All this is just two Japanese kids that they got crushes on each other. That's smart. But the way that it's told and the way that it's composed, genius. And then there's another one called Dress Up Driver, which is about a girl that wants to be a cosplayer and the dude that like make clothes and stuff. And they're the most inconsequential, boring subjects ever, but the way they're portrayed is just so immaculate that I'll sit down and eat it up and like have tears in my eyes and stuff.
Gotcha. That's funny. So I recently, I wouldn't even say recently, like my wife likes a lot of like slice of life type anime. And the first one that like I've actually sat down and watched that she like loves so much is like Fruits Basket. Um Bro, like I was like at first when I was seeing her passing it and when we were dating and stuff, I'm just like, yo, what? That's just like when people like blowing up stuff. Like what? Like I don't know anything about this like Fruits Basket slash and then I actually sat down and watched it. I'm just like, I'm invested. Like, I'm invested. Like I'm just like, this is like like it's a horrible it's horrible love story. I haven't finished it yet, so but I'm just like, man, I don't know why I'm just so hooked. Like it's just something about it. There's just like this the storytelling, the characters. I don't know the drama. If I think I like to view myself as a messy person, like most times. So I think it's just the messiness of the anime. I don't know, but I'm just like, yo, I get you. So wow, so with like that's your backstory getting into anime and having to and being with black nerd culture and being like, hey, like let's look at some boobs and that's how you got into anime, right? So being in that black nerd culture, right? My opinion of this, right, is that it has very recently been gaining popularity. And I'm jumping up my question, but like it's very recently been gaining popularity as of like as of lately, right? I think back then, like I would say maybe 15 years ago, like maybe it wasn't so like being a nerd, being a black nerd wasn't the like coolest thing. It's usually like, hey, you got to be the athlete, you got to be the singer, whatever it is. Mostly as an athlete, particularly talking high school, right? But like, what was that also like? So you're mixing in sort of this like being black and also being into things that like, at least from my vantage point, the dominant black culture doesn't necessarily like to view or accept. So what was that? What was that like for you?
That is why I kept it hidden when I went to high school. Cause like the nerds when I was even in high school really liked science and math and drugs. So they weren't into like anime. Like they knew about anime and comics and stuff, but they weren't like into it. They were into like more weird stuff like YouTubers that I didn't like and stuff. So I didn't have a tribe.
Yeah.
The internet became that where I had a space where I could like explore all these different concepts that I liked. So I got to get into like original characters primarily, but also anime YouTubers and like manga YouTubers and stuff. And the culture itself, most people that were born after 1980 have some familiarity with anime because in the 1980s, everybody thought Japan was going to take over the world because their technology industry was getting them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And because that's why you see Japanese culture in Blade Runner. That's why you see it being reflected in all these different media. Because much in the way that a lot of companies market to America because the money is there, or how America markets to China because there's a whole bunch of money there. A lot of companies and industries were kowtowing to Japan because they thought Japan ran the world and it was going to become this giant economic superpower. It turned out because of inflation that wasn't the case. Japan's economy collapsed. However, because Japan's economy collapsed, in order to get more money into them, their government subsidized animation. So the reason why you have stuff like Ghost in the Shell and Akira is because the Japanese government decided to pay for fire culture. And the Japanese government started investing and fire Japanese cultural experiences that could be exported across the world. That's why in the 80s and 90s you get one like freaking Thundercats and He-Man and all that good stuff. That come from Japan. Power Ranger, that come from Japan. But then like in the 90s you would get like the beginnings of anime, like Toonami and stuff. Then in the 2000s you get all of Toonami. And those three generations of people grew up with a familiarity to anime, and even if they don't remember that they like it, they'll see stuff that remind them of it, and that's why they like it. Like Frank Miller, who's the dude that's responsible for the popularity of Daredevil and for bolstering the popularity of Batman. He literally made the Dark Knight comic book. Frank Miller is heavily influenced by Japanese manga. There's a manga called Lone Wolf and Cub that Samurai Jack is also heavily influenced by. And that Japanese influence is in a lot of American cultural art, in the zeitgeist of it. I don't like using the word zeitgeist because it sounds really pretentious, but it's like, the consciousness, it's even worse than zeitgeist. But yeah, a lot of artists are influenced by Japan if they don't know it, and a lot of culture is influenced by Japan. Even like Pharrell Williams, like Bape, like people, the Japanese streetwear has been influential since the beginnings of streetwear, because Japan and America, specifically Black culture, have always had a good relationship with each other. The Jackson 5 were performing in Japan. Black musicians have been performing in Japan for years because it's cheap and they inhale our culture, and they can output our culture really, really well, as you see with like the breakdancing and their hip hop and stuff. So in terms of being accepted for partaking in the Japanese culture or Japanese inspired culture and having them be accepted, most people are really cool. Most people don't never had a legitimate problem with me like doing stuff as long as it was good. So even with playing like with katanas and stuff, when I sucked with using a katana, then like people, it was not a good day. But as soon as I got the ability to like use it properly and do a lot of cool stuff, everybody was cool. So it taught me that if you get good at something, most people will be okay. And if they're not, you can understand why. Because now, knowing what I now know about how culture works and how Japan is culturally and stuff, there is a ceiling that you get to with with cultural admiration before it goes into the line of being appropriation, and even more so before it goes into being destructive to the people that you admire.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Oh man. Man, so and I think I have a little bit of back. Hold on.
I think you're good. I don't hear anything.
Okay, I'm good. I bet. Good thing is recording. If this is live, this be crazy. So getting into that, right? So when you get into your company, right? Juaso Graphics, right? Like you have created this space for, in a sense, to promote Black artists. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, indeed. So the reason why I created the website, well, yeah, the one reason why I created the website was because I saw that artists weren't getting passive income like that. And number two, there's a lot of cool stuff that I wanted to make, and I was frustrated that I couldn't find it. And I was frustrated with the prices that it was taking for me to get things made one by one. So I decided to just figure out what avenues allowed me to get stuff created at the cheapest cost possible, and then I figured I might as well just allow other people to be able to use it as well. So when I found print on demand, I realized that's the perfect way to get access to all the stuff that I want made for myself, and if other people want stuff made as well, it's better for them to get it through me than for me to try to explain to them how to get it, because there's a lot of really complicated stuff that goes into like having certain systems in place. So the collaborations came when artists trusted me because they saw me getting sales. And then we started doing collaborations and reaching out to the community, because for a long time there was a giant separation between, there's a lot of Black spheres of like Black nerddom. So there's like Black artists and then Black cosplayers and Black influencers and podcasts and music, and they're all separated in these weird ways, even though we're Black and we're all nerds. And so I wanted to like break that down. So luckily I had been drawing like models for years because I was a perverted teenager. And so I'd already known a lot of the people that were in certain spaces. So when I started making the clothes and stuff, we were able to use the cosplayers as you use influencers regularly. And then when the cosplayers and influencers started going together, Then we were able to start seeing what other people were available and what pages were down to do stuff. Started working with a lot of meme pages in order to get access to their fans, and it started growing from there. And then we ended up to a point where we have like 50 artists that we work with now. We have like
Wow.
500 products on the website. We have stuff for people from all the way from like Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal and the UK here. We got a dude who's from Colombia. And then like we've been able to like meet a lot of the artists that we do work with, and we've been able to like put artists in position where they're able to be seen by people that give them major jobs. However, um, now I understand that giving people money is not enough and giving people audience is not enough, because as an artist primarily your goal and your desire is going to be to create art, and business and art don't often mix. So there has to be someone who can translate from art to business, and there also has to be someone who can turn an idea or a concept into something tangible. So
Mm.
oftentimes as an artist, somebody tells you, I want a picture of a Capri Sun box surfboarding on lava, and you got to make that. And even if you make exactly what they said, you might not have made what they had envisioned in their head when they told you it. So you got to learn how to
Yeah.
do that translation. And I end up taking that space of the translator oftentimes, because everybody might think they're speaking the same language, but different people got to be spoken to certain ways in order to make sure that the outcome is productive.
Wow. Yo, that's amazing. It's like you're tangibly like you're putting yourself in the being like, hey, like, I want to, I see this need, I see this need for artists. I'm going to be the person that's going to, in a sense, be the middleman, and be able to, get the artist paid and stuff, but also like get the customer, the consumer, get them happy as well. Kind of be that middleman to be able to, make everyone happy in a sense. Like, how, that's honestly like I think that's really dope. I don't know. I don't know many people like I'm sure there are a few out there, but I don't know many people that are willing to put themselves like on the line like that. So did that get into the way of like of what you do, like of like you actually creating like stuff for yourself? Does that like also take about time, or is it just like works hand in hand?
It depends. Sometimes it gets in the way, but most of the time it helps, because instead of me having to learn from my own customers or me having to learn from my own products, I get to learn from other people's audience and other people's stuff. So like even recently there was a bookkeeping accident that happened where I needed to do some stuff for a convention. So I moved some bread that I wasn't supposed to move because I didn't know that it was the bread for an artist. I thought that it was the bread for the convention,
Mm.
and the artist was not happy about that. So I had to go into 4 years of records in order to make sure that the artist was paid what they needed. And if I hadn't had done that, I wouldn't have learned a lot of things about how the profit margins on the website work, or the average cost, or like how much I've been spending on advertising. So I
Mm.
learned a lot from accounting from that situation, even though it's not anything that I would ever wish on anybody. Having that experience allowed me to learn a lot that I otherwise wouldn't have learned. And I exist in a space, in a position, luckily, where I have the ability to learn and to take the lessons from learning into stuff. Whereas a lot of people, unfortunately, they got kids to take care of, or they
Mm.
got houses to maintain. So like they have to keep as few variables as possible. And because I get to be in this position, I try to learn as much as I can while this position exists, because it definitely is not going to last forever.
Mm. No, so what for you? What would be the end goal, right? Like, yeah. What's the end goal for you for doing this?
Yeah, my end goal is always $5,000 a month. That's the minimum that I need to be completely free in
Yeah.
terms of like making that passively. So my goal has always been to make $5,000 a month passively, and making it in sales is easy because the more money you make, the more money. I mean, the more money you spend, the more money you make in terms of digital stuff. But when it comes to like having it be pure profit and consistent, if the website were to bring the $5,000 a month, that would require the website to make $20,000 a month, and it's not that many people that like Toonami for freaking twenty
Mm.
thousand dollars a month to be making a website. But luckily, the website is it exists as an advertisement for people to know the commitment to the mission of making sure that passive income is generated to artists, and for people to understand the mission of artists becoming educated in how to operate in an entrepreneurship capacity. So through the website, I've been able to get a lot of opportunities on like comics and manga and consulting and helping people write their stories in order to fuel it. And currently, that isn't passive, but I hope that in time I'll be able to do like courses or seminars or whatever so that that can come digitally, and then I'll be able to use those portions to like help people do certain conventions. Like there's a really cool convention by this dude named Akashi Jones called SableCon, and
Mm-hmm.
Akashi Jones now Akashi Jones is the best distributor of black manga because everybody else shot themselves in the head. And this
Whoa.
is just him and his babies, and that man be writing the mess out of things and finding artists and knocking out these campaigns. And he got a convention in North Carolina. And I wish I could do way more for him than I can, but all I can do is pull up and come with the love of Jesus. But in time, I hope to be able to like put bread into the pockets of conventions and make sure that artists are being given certain positions. And that is why I'm working so hard currently.
Yo, I respect that. I got a pause button somewhere. Like, hold on, let me put this right here. Okay, there we go. Yo, that honestly, we need that. I think there's a lot of people that talk a lot about like, hey, like, promoting, putting the black face, putting the, you know, working with artists and making sure they get what they need. But you seem like just from having this conversation with you, it seems like you're actually like, hey, like I care about this, I care about the artists. I'm going to best to try to make sure that I respect and I appreciate you for doing that. You know what I mean? Um, you know, I interviewed Craze Kai a few weeks ago. I interviewed my friend Secret Villain, Rain Governor, and these guys like they work hard. I'm just like like y'all like if y'all could get paid and live off what you do, I'm sure that you would be really you would probably be really great. And they are right, and I think they will continue to grow. And the fact that they have people like you that support them, that have that backing, I think that's really important. So that's amazing, man. So what is for you, right? For the black manga artists, I guess we could talk about other artists too, right? Like specifically, I guess in this sphere, what would be your hope for them? Like being in this industry, what do you desire to see for them? Yeah.
For now, I wish for them to be as educated as they want to be, because everybody has different things they want to do. So although there's certain stuff that like you should do in order to be in the highest, most sustainable position, most people aren't going to do that, because ultimately, once you get to a certain point uh, where people recognize you as an artist, you can either choose to turn yourself into a machine and draw what people want you to draw so that they can pay you. You can turn yourself into a business where you convince people that the stuff you have to offer that you want to make is valuable enough to be invested in. Or you can turn yourself into a content creator where people like you so much that you don't even really have to make art no more. It's just the art gave you a platform to make content where people like you, and some of that content might mess around and be art. And I wish that artists were willing to equip themselves with the knowledge to be able to sustain themselves economically and creatively, and understand how to protect their intellectual property and make certain connections and collaborations in order to put themselves in a position to fuel the projects and the stuff they want to do. But I understand, working with the website and working with so many artists, that the level of work that's required to do that and the level of disassociation necessary to accomplish that is not something a lot of artists are willing to take on. And they'll get out of they'll get so much in their own way and so much in their head that that could impede the creation of art that's already currently being made, because you're literally telling them to change themselves. And when you change yourself as an artist, it's hard to make what you've been making. And when people support you because you make what you've been making, a change could cause them to take that support away from you. So it's very dangerous as an artist to grow, unfortunately, because when you change, what people know is no longer you. And that's what happened to me. Is I used to draw all the time, and I used to do all this drawing and stuff because I hated my life. And then when life got easier and I was able to connect with some friends and start making bread and stuff, I ain't have the need to draw until 4 o'clock in the morning no more. And I have the reason to post every day to affirm my identity. And now I got a page that got a bunch of art on it, but it's not my identity. I am me, and I know a whole bunch of people that affirm my existence, and I'm cool. But for all the people now, when I post art, people don't see it because I ain't been engaging with people because I have to engage with people. And luckily, because of the website, I can do that, but a lot of people can't. If certain people switched up their art style tomorrow, 80% of their audience is gone. Because there's somebody on the internet that draw exactly the way that that person was drawing the week before. And another thing that I've seen, unfortunately, is that because art and business are so separate, an artist will put themselves under more stress to complete art than they will put themselves under to complete business. And the proceeds that come from creating the art, because there are some artists that make a lot of money. Black artists, black nerd artists that I work with, but they spend a lot of money as well because it's painful to create art and it's painful to live the life of an artist. And if there are pop figures or food or toys or media that decreases that pain, that soothes that pain, a lot of that bread gonna go. There are mad artists with crazy pop figure collections and Lego collections that exist in the world that are gonna drop thousands of dollars on toys that they couldn't have when they was younger. And it's not a bad thing, but I want artists to understand that if you learn how to invest in Facebook ads or merch or conventions or certain appearances in places, there's a lot of stuff that can be done. And unfortunately, even at the top of the mountain, that's not something that can be done because there's always been a giant track record between art and businesses of businesses screwing over artists. And before I got into this position, I thought these greedy companies aren't giving the artists money. Shame on them. But then when I became this person, I realized companies are always going to reinvest their bread. Artists are generally not going to reinvest their bread. Because the company is always investing, the company always have bread. Artists go broke every day. So I'm currently trying to figure out what the middle ground is between investment and donation, ultimately. And I think that middle ground is lowering the amount that artists get on the front end so that investment can be done, and then donating to artists from on the back end after having invested the funds. So that way, instead of taking from the pot of the artist that you promised them, you're giving them the small amount that you promised them in the first place, and then you can give them opportunities or give them donations that come later because that investment has paid off. And that's what I'm currently experimenting with. You might be muted.
I am muted. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
I was watching a YouTube video earlier today, and it was talking about. This is unrelated, but I think it's also related in the same vein of like with manga artists, like in this, he's talking about in Japan of how like there are some really great and amazing manga that exist that come in, and the artists put themselves through hell to be able to complete like just a chapter. And like they work 24/7 around the clock, and they only have like 4 hours of sleep when they only have like one meal a day, and they're like pretty much like killing themselves to be able to complete something, right? And I think when you were talking like and saying of how stressful, right, it can be for the artist and trying to complete business or just or do their work. It reminded me of that because it people, you guys work really hard, right? You guys work really hard to complete this something so that people would enjoy it. And it's like, and when people enjoy it, you want to keep getting better at it. And so that people will continue to see more of your content. And, you're referencing that, people have like really insane pop collections, or they have really insane Lego collections, or something that's keeping them like sane and spending their money, and then often going broke from that. It's like, dang, like what could necessarily be done, or what can you do in order for those artists to not end up that way, and you're being that middle ground. So man, it's unfortunate that's a thing, but I think you're definitely making a real difference for sure. So man, so just about to wrap up, right? So one last question for you, and this might be the hardest question for you, right? What is your most controversial anime opinion?
I don't watch anime like that.
Okay.
So I don't have many controversial anime opinions. Like I'm aware of the memes and stuff.
Sure.
And there's not even a meme that I could necessarily be on the side of. I feel like there's just so much good stuff. Okay, there we are. There's an anime opinion that's controversial. Because it's a controversial opinion that has to do with anime. All right, here we are. Black people, Japan does not care about you. So you should steal everything from them because they don't care about you. Keep on making do-rags with the Akatsuki cloud. Keep on taking the symbol from One Piece and making hoodies out of them. They don't deserve to have copyright or public or any license to para whatsoever. Steal everything. These people made Killer Bee. They made Michiko Tohashi. They got Gojo doing amazing dances in the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen, and they ain't pay black people nothing. These people made an anime about samurai break dancing with swords, had homie with the tattoos and the nappy hair and the free form, speaking in slang, had a white man dub him in English, and they ain't paid nobody nothing. So get as much bread as you can from the Japanese culture. However, when you get amongst Japanese people and their descendants, treat them with the respect they deserve, because without their sacrifices, you would not be here. Japan had to put up with mad craziness from China. Did they invade China? Yes. Did they side with the Nazis? Absolutely. However, the descendants of the Japanese people that are in America left Japan for a reason. And if you ask them why their ancestors left Japan and came to America, what their experience was, you'll find some very interesting things. Take it easy on the Japanese, specifically the Japanese in America, because there ain't too many of them. I don't know if you can tell, but Japan don't have that many women in Japan. And they don't have the best relationship with their women either. So there's not going to be too many of them. So we need to make sure that they is protected and comfortable in our engagements with them, because if you ain't got no Japanese people, you ain't going to have no Japanese culture to take from. So if anything, treat it like farming, where you show love to the Japanese people and their culture so that you can still have some cool stuff to borrow from every now and again. We can get some of your culture taken. Of course, we're black. We're always making culture. Japanese people have been holding on to the version of their culture they've been sharing with us for like 400 years now. You've seen Rurouni Kenshin. You see a piece of what it looked like in the Meiji Restoration, where they retooled their culture so it would be palatable for storytelling purposes. And if you've seen some other anime, you know what happened in the 1900s and how they retooled their culture once again. Everybody got to recalculate for the white man's actions and his footprint with colonization, except us. We make new culture on a daily basis. Everybody else is figuring out a different way to sell their culture hundreds of years ago.
Wow. we gotta dive into a little bit more, bro. Yo. Okay, so bro, I watched. That is a great. That's a great thing. That honestly, if I feel like if this video to blow up for controversy, this is definitely going to be it. So with your permission, of course, I'm going to put this out there. But bro, I watched a video last week, and I did some commentary on it about just Japan, right? And like there's some men, right, that they like people in Tokyo, walking around with locks. And I'm like, oh snap, this is an interesting video. Let me click on it, right? So I'm watching it. I'm just like, oh snap, like because the conversation, right? I feel like I've been in this conversation a little bit, of just like wanting to advocate for black people in the manga anime space. Is like, hey, like having more black people in in anime and manga is not terrible. Like it's I think it's okay to do it, and you should. And there's a lot of pushback. Is like, hey, Japanese is a homogeneous culture, so they don't do it or whatever. And they're just like, okay, whatever. But there's some people that have done, so I mean, that it can be done, right? So a lot of pushback on that, right? And it's just like, some people were like, yo, like you're like, are you like trying to like incorporate your culture into this culture that has nothing to do with you? I'm just like, okay, but I'm pretty sure Japan like jacks black culture, and they don't say it, and like it's not a problem, right? But like when like black people want to be like, hey, like let's have a black anime, like, but oh no, like you can't do that. So I watched this video, and dudes walking around with locks, right? And they're saying like, yo, I get inspired from black culture. Like you had a dude that had like a perm, and this man was like, yo, I got influenced by black barbershop culture. I'm just like, it. No one bat in the eye, like it's just like, and like they're giving kudos to the culture, right? And I like, looking at them, I'm like, okay, bet, like that's dope. Like they're giving kudos to the culture that inspired them, whatever, right? But when it comes to it's a little bit different things, right? Your tape is like, yo, this I think it four meshes into that, right? So is it so? This might be a little pushback, right? So is it like they not do they not care about us, or is it just like they're so see the same people that they see every day, so therefore they don't have any mental energy to care about the people that they're jacking from? That's devil's advocate, right?
Yeah, when I say Japan don't care about black people, I don't mean 100% of Japanese people. I mean the Japanese companies that are creating the media that we are taking in America. I got mad homies that live in Japan, and they be living their greatest weeby lives, running around in temples, playing in the bamboo forest. There's homegirl just bought a freaking house in Kyoto. They is living their lives out there with their Japanese friends. When I'm referring to the Japanese company to create media, we gotta remember that like in America, our media is a reflection of our reality. In Asia, because their media is controlled by corporations and monolithic entities, their media is used to control their culture. And the people that you see in Asia that are influenced by black and brown people, because there's a Chicano culture in Japan as well. There's the Gyaru culture that exists in Japan. There's mad subcultures that exist in Japan that are rooted in other things, is because much like hip hop in America, although less original, far more derivative, but much like the black anime culture, which is derivative, there was an established standard that was attempted to be pushed on to people. So the people chose the opposite of the standard that was put in point by media, which is good. That's what people are supposed to do. However, my attack is always going to be with the media. So when you watch an anime and now suddenly every anime got a token black person in it, and that man got speaking lines, and they're going to have Zeno Robinson do the voice acting to America. That's beautiful. We love seeing a token black character that gets voiced by Zeno Robinson. But more importantly, we can't take that token black person and parade them through the streets as our black representation, because now you letting some random old rich Japanese people tell you what your black hero is supposed to look like when you have hundreds of black artists that make anime.
Speak to them.
Of your culture, that understand your culture, making projects every day, and they ain't seen the light of day. And I ain't talked to these people, so I used to be mad at them. I was like, how come any black character in an anime with a speaking role gets your immediate attention? You stand up and this your queen, and you got all these artists that made all these great stories, and I ain't never hear nothing about them. You supposed to be people that control the black anime culture. I used to be tight at them, and then I learned their perception is that black anime is a bunch of independent people that just make characters all day, and those characters don't have stories attached to them. Whereas anime that has black people in it is real. Anime is
Huh.
real, and there are black people injected into that realness. They don't view black anime as real, and the reason they don't view black anime as real is because the influence is limited, and they don't understand their ability to influence media because they're stuck in that mindset. So the only way for us to free them of that, or to free our people from that, is to put our stories into the world and make sure the impact of our stories is resounding. There's a person named Broken Beat. If you know about Broken Beat, there's a black man that went all the way to Japan, even got an anime made, and the anime actually looked good. It's a company called Saturday AM. They is the world's largest diverse manga distributor in the world. They got deals with Walmart and Clip Studio Paint and Barnes and Noble. They out here. It's a dude named Akashi Jones, AKCHI Jones Comics. It's not even Akashi Jones no more. That man out here making black manga. We don't talk about Noir Caesar no more, but if you want to learn about Noir Caesar before they turned into a fossil, Noir Caesar used to be one of the greatest black manga companies ever. Homie that's making Static right now, Nicholas. We learned about that, man, by the Noir Caesar things. It's a dude named LaShawn Thomas. And before that man gained the ire of everybody for the travesty that was Yasuke, that man was making a show called Cannon Busters. Went to Korea, worked on Batman and Korra and all types of good stuff. So black people telling great stories in the anime style that existed for like a whole 15 years now. And it is our job to make sure the impact of these stories are being felt so that we can continue telling these stories and making them great. Because we can go to Japan and get the bag, but then we're going to be the token black man in Japan making our story. And we don't know how it's going to receive people outside of us, but us, and we can give it to us, and our people will enjoy it. They are people, so all we gotta do is support these projects.
Yeah, bro. I don't want this interview to end, bro. Cause I would have,
I have as much time as you want, fam.
Bro, just like thinking about like, so and I think you hinted to this a little bit of, like that people, like some people don't think that black anime is like, is this sort of like, they don't think it's real anime, that it's just like, because there are people like, I've run into these people, talk to these people that, hey, like, if the manga don't come from Japan, the anime don't come from Japan, then it's not manga, it's not anime. I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, I don't know if the rest of the world like really thinks the way that you do, right? I was commentating on a video about a guy was talking about the International Manga Awards, and just like, so what's this, right? It's just like only some Japanese people that have manga, and the rest of it just comics, because that's not what the rest of the world is saying. So like, man, what do you think of those people? And I heard a little bit of think of those people that are just like, hey, like, if it don't come from Japan, they ain't real. Like, what is your give me your 60-second take on that?
If you're not Japanese, you don't get to tell me how the expression of Japanese culture gets to be. If you don't speak Japanese, you don't have the ability to dictate what authentic Japanese culture is. If you don't know those Japanese people, you don't get to advocate for what Japanese culture is and how it should be perceived by the people.
Yo, there we have it. If you're not Japanese, right? Like, if you're just a person in the West that just loves the the enjoyment of everything Japanese, and and since is it otaku culture, right? Is it just like just kind of just everything gotta be authentically Japanese? If you're in the West, like you really, I don't think you can really say much, right? I don't think you like your opinion. It matters. You as a person that is a person, and you are valued and loved. Sometimes some opinions just gotta be a little, they just start staying there. You know what I mean? They just stay in the heart a little bit, because yeah. So anyway, bro, thank you so much for doing this interview. I know you got some really good takes. I love the way that you are advocating for Black artists in this space, and bro, let's like, hopefully this doesn't mess up. Let me give it up for my guy Lee here. That was a little short one, but bro, we really appreciate it, bro. Thanks for chopping it up with me, and hopefully we could do this again, because
much love,
bro, I have some controversial takes that I would love to run by you and get them for the people to hear. So, bro, where can people find you? Where can people find your art, your content, your clothing? Where can people find that at?
Blessings, people. If y'all Google Juaso, you will find me on the internet. Uh, yeah, Lee Juaso, Juaso Graphics, Juaso.shop, Juaso Graphics, com. There we are, JuasoGraphics.com. There are two websites. One of them has a whole bunch of products. One of them has a very small number of products. If you want a surprise, look up Curious Globe and tell me what you think of it. That's the next project. And we got some more sneaky products coming in the near future.
Cool. There you guys. So go check your stuff out. Go support. Yeah, and if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. There will be chopped up segments for you guys for your listening ears to enjoy. If you have a very short attention span like me, they will be there. So thank you guys for watching this. And until next time, this is Anime Relatable.
Peace.